Welcome back, everybody, to the WYG podcast. I'm Dro. This is Caleb. We got a good one for you today. We're going to go ahead and do the results. And after week one, we had a series of games that were just off the charts, a massive amount of viewers, and it was just great all around the football world. So we're going to get into it. Let's go ahead and start it off.
As you can see, I lost week one's predictions. I got a little thing going here. I've never had a handlebar mustache, so I don't know how to really shave it. So whatever.
It looks good on you. It looks good on you. You look like an old school biker.
That's not what I'm going for, First game I wanted to talk about was the Tennessee New Orleans game. It was just terrible. Both sides of the ball, no offense could be found. Nick Folk had 5 field goals for the Tennessee Titans. They could not find the end zone.
Yeah.
The Saints also, I think, had 4 field goals and 1 touchdown. They only found the end zone once.
Yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions. There was legitimately a point in the game where I thought Will Levis was going to come in and throw the football for them.
That actually brings in a good question. Do you think that the Titans should go on and move on to Will Levis from Tannehill, actually? Because he did play horribly.
He did play horribly, but I also don't think that they ran the ball enough.
Okay.
I don't think that they stuck to their core in Derrick Henry. I think he got outsnapped by Shears.
Okay, that's interesting.
I saw that he had 34 and Derrick Henry had 30 snaps. So that's just, you can't have that with your superstar running back not touching the ball enough.
But he was still going out there and putting in work, giving the stiff arms from hell. It was just amazing.
Derrick Henry is doing Derrick Henry things. There's no surprise. The surprise on my side was, why is he not doing it more? Why is Ryan Tannehill still throwing the ball at this point? The next game I want to talk about was the Eagles-Pats game.
Okay.
I'm a Pats fan. We all know this. I was excited for the first time in a while to watch the offense come on the field.
Okay.
It's very typical, like last year, where anytime Mac Jones stepped on the field, I was like, I'm just waiting for the defense to come back out there. It looked like there was some life for once. Hunter Henry is being utilized. I like it. He had a sick one-handed catch for a first down. He had a touchdown pass. Mac Jones is looking a little better. The Pats actually had more first downs than the Philadelphia Eagles. They had more passing yards, about the same amount of rushing yards. We contained Jalen Hurts. The only thing that hurt us was that slip up of a pass in the first quarter where they returned a pick 6, and then Ezekiel Elliott fumbling it in their red zone. So if you take those 2 mistakes out the game, very possible we win that. We had a chance to win it late in the game too. So I think that if the Pats are hanging in there with the NFC champions, I'm going to take that. I think that's a win.
Watching that game was great because the Patriots didn't go down like I thought they would. I remember last week I said it was going to be a blowout and just like a massive kill fest, but it actually turned into a pretty decent game, and I enjoyed what the Pats did. I like their selections on passing the ball with Jacoby Myers. Hopefully he's better. I'm sorry, probably not Jacoby.
Kendrick Bourne.
Kendrick Bourne. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the Patriots that well. So like their team was looking really good, and Hunter Henry sneak pick. I might try to pick him up on the waiver wires. Just saying, but hey, that's a different thing for a different day. But I was glad that they actually came out and they performed. They did their thing, man. It was a good game overall, and I think the Eagles got a little bit of a reality check, and they'll come out swinging in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that statement for sure. Lastly, I think last night's game was just, I don't know, back and forth the whole time with Josh Allen not playing well at all through 3 interceptions, 2 Whitehead specifically. Obviously, we're not going to gloss over the fact that Aaron Rodgers is out for the season now within 4 snaps.
That's tragic for that team.
Yes, it's concerning, but you got to think that last year the Jets did what they did with Zach Wilson. So can they do that and more this year with him being a little bit more developed, having Aaron Rodgers as a coach on the
Right.
sideline,
Yeah.
having better weapons offensively. Garrett Wilson's gonna develop. Sauce Gardner's gonna develop. You have Alan Lazard now as another option. You have Brees Hall who's back. You have Dalvin Cook who's back.
Yeah.
So I think that they could still possibly do very well.
I
Winning
think
the
so too.
no, but
I think so too. And keep that in mind for later on segment in the show because we're going to talk about that a little bit more too as well. But yeah, I think you have a good point in the Jets still being probably okay with Zach Wilson at the helm. It does suck that Aaron Rodgers went out and for like the first 4 plays. It was crazy, man, and it hurt seeing him doing that. And you gotta wonder, like, do you think that's gonna not only yeah, we know it's a season ending injury, but do you think that's gonna like affect his career now? Because he is a little on the older side. So do you think that as he'll come back next year? Do you think how well will he be next year? And things of that nature like start popping up in everyone's head. So that's
yeah,
something to look at.
yeah. I don't think that the Jets are going to address that yet, but that's definitely going to be something later in the year that they start to look at for
Mhm.
if Zach Wilson's having a good year, they're going to go that route, or if Zach Wilson's not doing well, are they going to look towards the draft for another trade option?
Yeah,
Who
yeah, I
knows?
got you. I understand. I
Um,
understand. But overall, man, I think the 3 teams that you chose to talk about were really good matchups, man. I mean, the first matchup you had between the Saints and the Titans was a good game to watch overall, I would guess. I mean, there wasn't so much action. Yes, field goals on both part of the teams, but seeing, the touchdown from the Saints finally happen and get a breakthrough, I do think overall Derek Carr played a little under what we well, I wouldn't say we, but most people suspected of him with his new team. But I think it's just going to take him more time to develop there with his new people. So, great picks, great picks. I like it. I enjoyed it.
um, as far as teams that outplayed or didn't play as well as they should have, I would say personally that Tampa Bay outplayed expectations this weekend.
So
Uh,
you're saying that's the most impressive team for this week?
I wouldn't say they're the most impressive. I would just
Okay.
say per what they were expected.
Oh, okay. All right. I like
So
that.
like, yeah. I think that everyone expected Minnesota to come in there and just have the reins of that game entirely and just have. I did too, but Baker Mayfield shows consistently that even if he is not the best quarterback in the league, he is going to try his hardest.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the things I respect about him is he's been a journeyman throughout his
Mhm.
career already. He's been a few places and tossed around, but he does not care. He's still putting in work. You saw it, like he'll throw his body out there, like kind of like what Josh Allen will do. He's not as athletic, but he just uses it the same way. It's kind of impressive. Minnesota didn't handle that game at all,
Mhm.
and that kind of plays into how Tampa Bay was able to play their game, how poorly Minnesota played theirs. But I
Right.
still think Tampa Bay looked impressive all around. Their defense, who doesn't have stars, played pretty well. I think Antoine Woodfield had a, a handful of great plays. He typically does, but
Okay. I like that. So who you think will let you down the most this week?
prime time Sunday night,
Mm.
I really thought that the Giants were going to come in there and make it a game. Uh, I thought that they were going to play better. I know the rain probably did a little something for them early on, but then
Yeah.
they were just bladed the whole time. They couldn't do
Yeah.
anything. That Cowboys defense, 40 fantasy points is unreal. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, they came through big time, man. Michael Parsons was a beast that night. They tried to double team him, didn't work. They let
Yeah.
open holes, and then when they tried to single team Mike Parsons, he ran all over the offensive line as well
Yep.
too. So they had no answer. And I think the Giants, I thought they were a good team. Maybe they still can be, or they are. But against the Giants, the way they looked that night, they were not ready for anything, and I don't know how they're going to be this season.
I didn't see a single bright spot. Like typically in those games, you can see a player, a unit that was like, okay, yeah, but you can have this takeaway and that they were good in this one area. But I didn't see that at all from New York on Sunday night.
I have to agree. I have to agree.
So and
Well,
Graham he missed
huh?
2 field goals.
Oh yeah,
So
he was
can't even
off
say
track,
something.
bro. He was off
Yeah.
track. Well, let's go ahead and get into mine too. So I will start with my most impressed team that I was more impressed with throughout the week one. And it goes to a team who actually lost. The Colts. Oh my God, Richardson at quarterback, phenomenal, man. The dude almost got injured. Thank God he didn't, but they look like a solid team. And I was kind of eating some of my words when I was watching the game on Sunday. I was like, oh man, this team looks really good. It looks really well oiled. They need a little bit of fixes here and there, but I think they could actually get more wins than what I thought they would at first. And I was really impressed. I enjoyed watching that game. I think the Jags made some mistakes that they need to tighten up so that it doesn't happen again. And hopefully they don't lose more games down the wire because they were damn near close to losing that game too. Um, and then of course, let's move on to the
Well,
most disappointing. Go
I
ahead.
want to
Yeah.
ask you real quick. Do you think that Anthony Richardson, after week one, do you
Mhm.
think that he would be the leading candidate from this perspective of offensive rookie of the year? Do you think that he looked the best?
Hmm. It's a good question. It's a good question. Wow. Now I have to look back at all the other rookies. I wasn't expecting that one. I would
Well, I
say,
have like CJ Stroud
yeah,
and
yeah.
Bryce Young. So
Well,
like
if you put it into like quarterbacks wise, just like quarterbacks out of all of the other quarterbacks, hell yeah, hands down.
yeah.
CJ Stroud looked like he was scared the whole time. There was a point where they like zoomed in on his face before snaps, and you kind of saw fear in his face.
Yeah.
And I kind of laughed and I was like, ah, man, he does not look ready. And then Bryce Young, although he did have a decent way, I guess, I think he threw for about 150 yards or so, but he did some good. There were some good spots in there. Way better than CJ Stroud, I believe. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's affecting of the team. CJ Stroud had no time to throw. The
Hmm.
offensive line was getting just torn through, and as opposed to Bryce Young, he had a little bit more time, um, better personnel to throw to, and things of that nature. As in Hurst was making some great grabs for him and being a good sure hands receiver that he needs at this time. But yeah, I think Richardson stood out above all three of those rookie quarterbacks, and I think that if he continues on this route, then yeah, I think he can make a good contention for rookie of the year. Yeah. Did you see
Man,
anything?
I know I have to agree with like the rookie as far as the quarterbacks. It's Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud in that
I
order,
agree.
and
Yeah.
I think that'll follow suit for the rest of the year. I think that is the proper examination.
Yeah.
Those-
Yeah. I like that. I like that. But yeah, so like as I was saying, the disappointment, I think everyone is on the level with me. I think the biggest disappointment was the Bengals this week. I
Mhm.
mean, I understand the weather was out of control, and I understand that the Browns is not necessarily a horrible team. However, I think their offensive line just did not stand up or do any good this week. They need to go back, look back at what's going on. Joe Burrow didn't feel comfortable. I wouldn't say it's because of the calf injury. I think he's over it. I just think that it didn't feel right for him in that moment. And he was getting pressured almost nearly all day. There was nothing that they could do on offense. And not only am I mad about that, but I have him on my fantasy, which we'll talk about later, and just made me cry at the end of the night. You know what I'm saying? So thanks,
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, wherever you may be.
Um, do you think that do you think that Cincinnati came into that game just expecting a win anyway, and you think that they probably played down?
That's a possibility. I think they thought they were facing a Browns team that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
I, I wouldn't say they under like
Prepared.
studied or anything. But I mean, they probably studied film and all that good stuff. Yeah, obviously. But I think they thought that it was going to be an okay win. Like like these college games. The first one's always like a candy walk, you know what I mean, mostly. But I feel like they just didn't perform to the level that they should have. I think they let the weather get to them, maybe, and they just underperformed all around. You know, it was a hard game to watch. I will say that, but I think they do get right. I think they have a nice long week, hard week, probably from the coaches and stuff. But I think they have a nice week and get themselves turned around, and they get better. And with that, we're gonna close that little segment out. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the results for week one. As you already see, you see my man Caleb over there rocking his little handlebars. It's a little faded. It's a little faded, but it's gonna come in. It's gonna come in, and when it comes in next week, we'll see it again, and we'll laugh a little bit more at him. What he didn't let you guys know is that he gets to go and do some public speaking with those handlebars today. But that's gonna be amazing. It's already paying dividends, baby, and that's what this is all about. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw up on the screen. Remind you guys of what the picks were. We'll let you know what the scores were, and so you can see it for yourself how bad that my man Caleb lost this week. All right, here you go. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and head into week two. We're gonna do our picks. Remember, the scoring 1 point for each game that is not prime time. And actually, this week we have a special game because we have two games that are on prime time on Monday night. And it's gonna be good, you know. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and pull up the schedule here. And so we got the Vikings and the Eagles up first. Let's go, Caleb. Tell me who you got.
I think the Eagles are going to stay strong, and I think the Vikings aren't going to be. I think the Vikings will look better than they did week one, but not good enough to beat the defending champs, the NFC champs.
Okay, all right. I gotta agree with you. I'm gonna have to take the Eagles as well. The Vikings didn't look good last week, even with who they were playing, the Bucks and stuff like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the Eagles here too, starting off 2-0. Vikings 0-2. Kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. Let's go. Next game. Packers, Falcons. Who you got?
I got the Packers. The Packers looked great last week, and the Bears looked god awful. I think the Packers. I think Jordan Love looked really well and composed, and I think that the Falcons don't have a passing game with Desmond Ridder, so I think the Packers will.
I like that. I like that. I think the Falcons looked okay during last week's game with the Panthers, but I do agree with you. The Packers look fantastic. It looks like they didn't even miss a beat with Jordan Love, and it was crazy. Aaron Jones had a great game. It was beautiful just watching them play. So the next game that we got coming up is the Raiders and Bills. Who you got?
The Bills. Raiders. I can't see the Raiders doing anything in their division, and I don't see that the Bills playing poorly 2 weeks in a row. If Josh Allen put up sub 10 points on fantasy, I don't see him doing that 2 weeks in a row. I think he's going to go off next week.
I actually agree. I think the Bills will take this. Although the Raiders did play pretty well against the Broncos, but not the Broncos. Who did play?
No, they played the Broncos.
Okay, I was right. Yeah, I gotta trust the instincts, man. I gotta trust the instincts. But yeah, I think they played pretty good against the Broncos, which was actually a pretty legit game too. But yeah, I think the Bills take it in this one. Revenge time for Josh Allen to come back from that bad beat. So next game we got the Bengals and the Ravens. Who you got?
I got the Bengals. The Ravens looked shoddy against Houston in the first half. I think it was 9-9.
Yeah.
Game going into halftime. They figured it out after halftime, but still they don't look like they're complete as a team yet. The Bengals obviously don't either, but I think if one team's going to figure it out before next week, it will be Cincinnati. I think they have the tools to do that.
I think you took all the words right out of my mouth, man. I agree with you. The Ravens did not look well put together last week against the Houston Texans, who were coming close on multiple occasions. I got to agree with you. I think the Bengals figured it out faster, and they come in week 2 and they take that game. Next week, the Lions and the Seahawks. Who you got?
I have the Seahawks in this one. Um,
Hmm.
Surprise, but I think that the Seahawks are going to come same kind of the same deal. They're going to come back. They're going to figure it out because they didn't really have anything to show for their outing last week.
Okay.
I think that the Lions, yes, they got to win over the defending champions without Chris Jones and without Travis Kelsey and a poorly playing Kadarius Toney. So
Mhm.
I think if Kansas City had the tools that they should have had, then the Lions would be sitting at 0-1 as well.
Okay.
Um, but I think this will be a good game, and I think the Seahawks will come out on top. I think the Lions will not take this one.
Okay. So we had our first disagreement because I do take the Lions. I think that their team is, yes, well put together. Would have honestly, do I think they would have won the Kansas City game if Travis Kelsey was in there and Kadarius Tony, whatever the crap his name is, uh, can't catch Butterfingers. Yes. Do I think that the Chiefs would have won? Yes, I do. But I do think that they take this from the Seahawks. The Rams was a very surprise team that came out of the NFC East last week and surprised us with their talent. But I do think the Lions take this one. So that's our first disagreement. Next game, we got the Texans and the Colts. Who you got?
I got the Colts. The Colts looked good last week against the Jags. Of course, they're young; they're still trying to build, but the Texans are the same force. I think that's an easy Colts pick for me.
I got you. I'm on the same wavelength. Colts for the win. Next game, Chiefs and the Jaguars. Who you got?
No way, Chiefs are losing two in a row. Um, it's not happening. I got the Chiefs. I'm not going to speak bad on the Jaguars. I'm just going to speak good on the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are not going to lose two games in a row to start the season.
All right, all right. I agree with you. I think the Chiefs take it. I think the Chiefs bounce back. I think that. Well, I'm pretty sure that they'll have Kelsey back for this game. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on it, but if they do, then I think they win pretty big here. Chiefs in that game as well. Next game, we got the Bears and the Bucks. Who you got?
I have the Bears. They looked bad. The Buccaneers looked good. But I'm not going to let week one determine how I feel about the team for the rest of the year. I still think that the Bears have the tools to be a decent team. They looked bad, but I'm just going to put my eggs in this basket for 2 weeks in a row and go Bears.
I'm not gonna lie. When you first started off, you're like, "Yeah, I think I'm the Bears." You didn't feel confident.
Nah, I'm going to stick through it.
I like it. I like your answer, but I gotta disagree here. I think the Bucks come out swinging again. They're riding that high. I'm beating the Vikings last week. I think Baker Mayfield still keeps it up at the nice little level that he's been throwing at with Evans and Godwin. So I think the Bucks take it here. That's our second difference. Next game, we got the Chargers and the Titans. Who you got?
Chargers, easy. They had a shootout loss against the Dolphins that could have gone either way. I think they looked good. Their offense looked great. Eckler is questionable for next week, but I still don't think that's going to matter much. They are running the ball fine with Josh Kelly, and that's saying something that the Titans are not running the ball enough. So I think the Chargers.
I gotta agree with you. Chargers are going to take the win on this one, especially if the Titans play like they played last week. Chargers were very good in that game, but I did tell you the Miami Dolphins was going to win, just like you. All right, Chargers. Next game, we got the Giants and the Cardinals. Who you got?
Uh, the Cardinals looked better than the Giants did last week.
True.
But
Very true.
but I still think that the Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Giants. I think they bounce back. Not saying that they look great, but they'll be good enough to beat the Cardinals.
All right. I agree with you. Giants over the Cardinals. Not much to say there. They're both kind of bad teams at this moment, but I do think the Giants figure it out. Giants over the Cardinals. Next game. My game, baby. Let's go Niners. Niners over the Rams. Who you got?
I started this year saying Niners are going to go 14-3, and after watching Week 1, I easily think that can happen. I don't think that they're going to. One of those three games is going to be the Rams, so I'm easily going 49ers here.
Yes, sir. No, nothing else said. You already know who I'm going for. We're gonna skip this one. We come back to it. Next game, we have the Commanders and the Broncos. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Broncos. I don't feel good about either one of these teams, to be honest. Neither one really looked great. But I think that the Broncos have just a better roster,
Okay.
and that's what'll take them over the edge.
I like that. I like that. I have the Broncos as well. I think they'll take this game. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I can see the Commanders winning it, but I do think the Broncos are going to take this one, especially at home.
Mhm.
All right, our next game, your game. You got the Dolphins and the Patriots. Who you got?
Ah, this was a tough one because I really do think that it could go either way.
Okay,
And I'd love to say that the Pats are going to take it. Uh, but the Dolphins looked really good on Sunday. Uh,
outstanding.
yeah, they Tua threw for over 400 yards. Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards receiving.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just I don't think that the Pats will be able. I think that they can contain, but I don't think it'll be enough.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good game to watch, but I think the Dolphins will come out.
I gotta agree with you, man. I like the way the Patriots played. I'm over here thinking about SpongeBob. I do like the way that the Dolphins or the Patriots played. I do think the Dolphins will win this game solely because they have their dual threat in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And with Mostert at the running back too, I think there's too much to stop for the Patriots. Just as like when they played the Eagles, there was too much to stop there. So I do see the Dolphins taking this. I do think it's going to be another good game, close game. Maybe we'll see. Um, but in the end, I got the Dolphins as well. We're going into our Monday night games. Right now, we got the first game on Monday night is Saints and the Panthers. Who you got?
I'm gonna take the Saints. Uh, I I think that Derek Carr will come out better week two. And I just don't think that the Panthers will figure out what they're trying to do on offense yet. Miles Sanders didn't look like he was that guy for them yet. He had some production, but it wasn't enough to be the Panthers offense. So I think the Saints will have enough with Chris Olave, Michael Thomas back
Oh
to,
yeah.
to
Okay. I agree with you. I think the Saints will win this one. The Saints defense is another decent defense that the Panthers have to go against. Like I said before, even in week one, I think the Panthers will be an okay team, but it's going to take time. I think probably towards the end of the season, they'll figure themselves out and they'll be decent. But I think in this game, the Saints take it probably in a pretty good margin. Probably not as big as the Falcons game that they just played, the Panthers just played, but I think the Saints take this. In our last Monday night game, we have the Browns and the Steelers. Who you got?
I am going to go Steelers. Their
Wow.
defense is good.
Okay.
Um, Obviously, they let up 30 points, but they let it up to the 49ers, who are arguably the best team in football right now.
Okay.
And I think that the Steelers will not only put up 7 this week, I think that they'll put up a better offensive showing. And I don't think the Browns are going to duplicate what they did last week, shutting down the Bengals, who just underperformed. I just I think the Browns are not at the same level as the Steelers. I know the records don't show that, and last week didn't show that, but that's just what I think.
Okay. I disagree. I do think the Browns are going to take this one. So there's another disagreement that we have. I like the Browns in this game. I think Miles Garrett comes through and puts pressure in Kenny Pickett's face. Um, Same as last week, and I think he makes some mistakes. I do think the Steelers are a pretty good team, but like you said, they ran into the Niners. You know, and that's just unfortunate for them on week one. I I like the Browns defense they played. Deshaun Watson is getting a little bit better. He's getting into rhythm. Nick Chubb is going to have a great game on the ground, I believe, especially since they got ran over by Christian McCaffrey, who is a great running back. But I'm not trying to compare them to. But I do think that the running game for the Browns is going to be really really good and be proficient during the Steelers. So I got the Browns in this one. We shall see. And for our last game, I saved it for last because I wanted to talk to you about this one. So our last game that we got on the slate is the Jets and the Cowboys. Yes, it is not a primetime game, and it's not going to be worth extra points. It's going to be worth 1 point. However, when it comes to picking these two teams, I feel like we're going to have a disagreement. But before we pick our teams, let's talk about it for a second. Do you think that the Cowboys are as good as they showed last week during week 1 against the Giants. Because the Giants are not that great of a team, yes, and they put up 40-0 on them. I got it. But you got to remember the Giants, who doesn't have like a prolific defense, only allowed Dak Prescott about 140 some odd yards on 24 passes, completing 13 of them. Yes, most of them were CeeDee Lamb, 4 targets. He had 4 targets. He was 100%. He got like 77 yards. But if the Giants defense can do that to the Cowboys, what makes you think that the Jets defense can't do that or even better against them? I think there's going to be a battle of the defenses. I'm not counting out the Cowboys defense, especially with Zach Wilson in the game now and not Aaron Rodgers. But I just think that the defenses are going to have a nice battle on this week. But with that being said, I do take the Jets in this game. What is your ideas on it?
I agree with you that it will be a battle of the defenses. I think both of those defenses are top 3. As of week 2, it's the Cowboys, Jets, and Niners. Those are the top 3 defenses in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that can be argued very much. And we get to see 2 of them face off this week. Very fresh. And you saw that the Cowboys, they didn't just stop the Giants. They forced turnovers. They just dominated the game. The Jets, they still allowed some stuff that, they played against Josh Allen, so it was a different story.
Exactly.
So they did very well. They forced 4 turnovers on Josh Allen alone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that the Cowboys have a better all-around unit, because if you're going to go battle the defenses and if they're on par with each other, now you have to flip over to the offensive side of the ball. And would you rather have Dak Prescott or Zach Wilson at the helm?
Okay. All right.
I'm going to go Cowboys.
I see your points. All right. So you are going to go Cowboys. So there's another one that we difference on. It's gonna be interesting, but like you said, the Jets stopped a better quarterback between the two. I think Josh Allen is a way better quarterback than Dak Prescott, and I don't know. I saw them stop him and forced 4 turnovers, so I had to pick the Jets on this one, man. It was a tough one. I talked to myself in the room for hours, but I do think the Jets take this.
I also do think that Josh Allen just had a bad game. I wouldn't say that the Jets forced him into those decisions. Mm-hmm. I think he rushed a couple of those interceptions, throwing it deep, trying to force one into Diggs in the end zone when he was double covered. Like, he could have thrown that ball away. He could have tucked it and ran, but he tried to force it in there. And I think that is more on Josh Allen than the Jets defense. Of course, they forced the pressure, but I think that's more telling of Josh Allen.
All right. I like that. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are our picks for week 2. We're going to throw them up on the screen right here. And then next, we're going to talk about some punishments. All right. So now that you've seen it, now that you know what we picked, now we're into week 2 punishments. All right. You already seen that we're willing to carry out these punishments. As you see, is my boy Caleb right there rocking some nice little handlebars. It's only going to get better, baby. Just wait until week 3.
Next week. Yep.
Yeah. Just wait until week 3, next episode next week, and you're going to see them in full force. But
yep, absolutely.
1 week at a time. What's the punishment that we got for this week, brother?
So this week it'll affect you. You won't be able to see this in general, but me and Joe are in a fantasy league together.
We are.
And I'm going to state that the first 3 players that we drafted this week, or on our team, are untouchable. Okay.
Okay.
But I will have a say on who you have to drop who are not those 3 players.
Okay. All right.
That doesn't mean that I necessarily will get him, but that just means he can be claimed off the waiver wire.
That's tough.
It is.
I accept, and I like that. I think it's a very good punishment. I accept it. I already know who I'm gonna drop off your team, bro. It's about to go down. You better hope you
Oh.
win this week.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
All right. So with that, we got our punishments. All right. So we're gonna move on a little bit before we end the show, although it is coming to an end shortly. But since we're on the topic of fantasy football, let's talk about it a little bit. All right. We both have multiple leagues. I have one with some good friends on Yahoo, and then we also have our league that we share on ESPN. Let's recap our league only, and then let's look at that. So we played each other in the first week. And for some of you guys that don't know,
Yep.
I would like to throw it up on the screen, but I'm embarrassed because Joe Burrow just killed my team and scoring only 3.16 points. I think it was. He only had 87 yards, and it was just a massacre. I almost caught up with the Jets defense, almost, but I fell a little short.
Yeah.
But what do you think about fantasy ads that you might be looking at? Not necessarily, don't try to give, secrets away too much, because I already have a waiver wire that I told you about. I'm thinking about picking up Hunter Henry. He did really well.
Yeah.
I think that's a good target for Mac Jones. But what are you feeling on your fantasy side? Are you feeling good about it?
Uh, I'm feeling good about my team that we have.
Mhm.
Obviously Hunter Henry's a big pickup if you don't have him. He looks like he's the guy in New England
Okay.
for safety downs and end zone looks. So I think that's a huge pickup if you can get there. Also, I would say J.K. Dobbins is out for the year now.
Facts.
So that's a huge look. I know he's not very high on the running back market, but he is a flex option for a lot of teams. Uh, I'd look into Justice Hill. He had 2 touchdowns that game. He looks like he's the third down power back. So that means carries at the goal line. So I look at Justice Hill. Gus Edwards was the guy last year, but I don't think it doesn't look like he's the guy this year.
I agree with you. Justice Hill did look nice. So if anybody that might be watching, and you're like, maybe these guys might know a little something. Justice Hill might be a good pickup. I will not confirm or deny if I'm targeting him in one of my leagues, but I'm just saying,
Yep.
he did do outstanding, and they do need another running back. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins out for the year. I feel bad for the people who have Aaron Rodgers on their lineup.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a tough week for them. You might want to start looking into a new quarterback. Who do you think they should pick if they don't have that?
If they don't have, I mean, if Anthony Richardson is available, I would go there. I
Okay.
think I think he's rostered in a lot of leagues, so it might not be a waiver wire pickup, but I'd even consider trading for him. He looks like he can put up points, fantasy points, and he's gonna see the end zone on the ground and in the air. I think that's a big pickup. As far as other waiver wires, everyone kind of looked disappointing this week. And as far as quarterbacks, Joe Burrow had 3 points. Daniel Jones had 4 points.
You know who I didn't expect to have double points? Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
That dude, and I know people don't have him on a roster, but Jimmy Garoppolo looked good. So I think, hey, if you're desperate, Aaron Rodgers is going, pick up Jim.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I guess desperate times.
You know what I'm saying? Jim money, you know what I'm saying? Jimmy G, baby. Ride in on it.
Did you see Jacoby Myers had a good game?
He did. He did have a good game.
But he has entered concussion protocol. I don't know if you saw that hit, but
I did. Oh my God. It's horrible.
that was yeah.
Yeah, that was a hit for the centuries.
They showed his face. He was lying on the ground, dead, basically. His eyes were glossed over. I was worried for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy hit, man. That was one of the better hits that they had this week, man.
It wasn't legal, but
yeah, of course. You can't fault the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, man. Well, as the show ends, you got any last remaining comments that you want to put on here before we exit out of here?
No. I just hope this comes in a little bit better next week. We'll see.
It looks good on you, man. It looks good on you, man. I can't wait for it to be fully like in there. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see what it looks like next week. We'll keep up on the progress of it.
It's good to me.
But yeah. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please tune in for the next show next week. And hey, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share. We appreciate it. This is Who You Got Podcast. Peace.